And we've got a bunch of tabs and we'll be starting there. Chinese Heritage Month in February? Huh. Isn't that weird? Wouldn't that be strange? Yes, says an Indian-born MP in the Ottawa House of Commons from the If Only You Knew How Bad It Really Was files. Pensions. So they've backed down on moving the election date to allow two-termers to qualify for their pension for the week. And so that's interesting. That's reported by Blacklocks. I'd say take it with a grain of salt. Just I haven't seen anybody else talking about this. So maybe it just happened, but looks like they've backed down on that little detail. Photo radar in Alberta is being dismantled. And South Korea had a situation where their president had declared martial law, and then the president got deposed, like removed. And so I'll show you that. And people are comparing it with what Justin Trudeau did. And instead of going along with it, the legislature stood up to that person and removed them. So it's interesting because, well, it's interesting. So we'll get to it. Lots to get to. Let's get to it first. We have to start with the border. And Dr. Leslyn Lewis is responding to the National Post. National Post says Public Safety Minister dismisses 51st state comments as nothing but a joke. Oh, he was joking. LOL. Didn't you see me laughing out loud? Leslyn Lewis says the only reason President-elect Donald Trump could even joke about Canada becoming the 51st state is because he sees weakness in our current leadership under Justin Trudeau. Canadians need a strong prime minister to lead us, and that is what Pierre Poilievre will be. So there's been all of this push of a Team Canada approach, which is nonsense because Team Canada to lock us down, Team Canada stay home, stay safe, Team Canada if you don't get vaccinated, you're going to lose your job and we're going to go after you and put you in jail. And if you dare to protest about it, we're going to find you. Or if you donate to the Freedom Convoy, we're going to find you and we're going to make an example of you. Team Canada approach, like you can shove it where the sun don't shine. Thanks very much. Right? Like, as I've said, there are a lot of people who would welcome the United States and say, well, at least we'd have free speech then. Our protections of our basic rights would be strengthened. Right? So like, that's the counter argument. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. What do you think? Let me know. Would you be okay with being taken over by the United States and everything that would entail, or no? I mean, free Amazon deliveries, right? So, and you'd get Amazon.com. So consumerism. Oh, okay. Here's what Donald Trump posted. This is real. I went to his Twitter account to see if this was real, and it wasn't there. And I was like, oh, wah. It's not there. It's not real. And then somebody said, no, it's on Truth. And I was like, oh, it's on Truth Social. And so yet YEG Wave says Donald Trump has just posted a picture of him in the mountains, and I don't think the Canadian mountains. It doesn't look like Banff to me. I don't know. What does that look like to you? The Matterhorn, people are saying. Anyway, in the mountains with a Canadian flag captioned "Oh Canada." So Donald Trump standing on a mountain peak beside the Canadian flag, and it looks quite majestic, right? And he's looking down, right? What does it mean? People say, and some people who were saying Justin Trudeau knows what it means. Other people were memeing, right? So somebody put the YMCA song and Donald Trump dancing to this, and it's pretty funny. Like, we're not going to listen to the whole thing, but it's pretty good, right? Animated. There's no need to feel down. I said, young man, pick yourself off the ground. And they've got Trump dancing in different Canadian locations. Look, he's in Toronto, right? Oh, Toronto. He goes to Montreal, I think, too. There's a Canadian-American flag. Anyway, and I think that they're using an AI voice to have Donald Trump sing the YMCA as well. It's quite, I mean, it's funny. It's funny. The memes are probably the best part of Trump's presidency so far. Concerned Canadian says she's nothing more than a totally inept DEI appointee. We have no hope if her and Trudeau are negotiating with Trump, who agrees. So this is a back and forth about the border issues, and it's Mel Jolie. And, well, people don't like this, and I can understand why. It's a weak response, and I don't know if she talks about tariffs. I do have one where they're talking about tariffs, and I think that the way to solve this problem is not to play the strong man, is to just solve the problem that Trump's asking to be solved, right? Like, if you said the gate's open, close the gate. You don't counter with the door is also open. Could you close the door, right? Like, it seems like counterproductive. Maybe they're telling you to close the gate for a reason. And in this case, Trump's told you the reason, right? Like, the pigs are getting out. There's fentanyl and illegal aliens who are actually criminals crossing the border from your country. You might want to look at that, but that part's implied, right? And instead, we're like, hey, we're gonna put tariffs on bananas. Don't you know you're impacting people in Canada? And he's like, you may want to look in to that illegal alien criminals coming from your country into my country thing. Here's Mel Jolie.
our Ambassador Hillman was just on CNN moments ago, and says that plans are underway in case retaliatory tariffs are necessary, obviously pointing to what we've done in the past when we dealt with this the first time. How far along are those plans? I mean, I know the hope is to avoid tariffs and all of that, but how far along do we need to go in that plan to be ready just in case?
Well, Karina, you've asked me the question before the election whether we had a plan for the Trump administration or the Harris administration. I told you yes. And then afterwards, when President Trump was elected, um, we started implementing that plan. And so, of course,
Could you give us the highlights of the plan, or are you just going to refer to the plan as the plan and say, we've got a plan, the plan is in play, we've been doing the plan? Next question, because it seems like that. And apologies, I thought it was a different tab. This is the one where they're talking about tariffs. And the tariffs are uh, what we did last time. And it seems like they're trying to avoid the tariffs, but also not hard enough.
we knew because of conversations he had had in the past that tariffs was a strategy that he was willing to use, as he did during his first mandate, and also that he was preoccupied with the border. That's why, coming out of our first US Canada committee, Minister Freeland and I mentioned that these were the two priorities, tariffs and border. And so we'll continue to work on that and we will be able to protect Canada's interests. But meanwhile, as I just mentioned, we also know that relationships are important and that Canada has lots of arguments to present to the Americans and has a lot of tools to defend our industries and defend our economy. And of course, as a good government, we are looking at all these tools possible, and we'll make sure that we send a clear message to the Americans.
Part of a chess game is putting your pieces in place. And when you're setting your pieces out, you're vying for control of the board, right? And so you put your pieces in place, and your opponent makes judgments on whether you'd be willing to sacrifice that piece or not, right? So you put a piece out, say your queen or something like that, and you leave them vulnerable or whatever, or you put them in such a position that your opponent ignores it because they don't understand the strategy, or they think that strategy's not likely to happen. And so I'm not going to put a lot of defenses on that side. I think this person's playing this strategy, and so I'm going to defend my king this way. And so, in my opinion, our leadership is misreading the chessboard that's in front of them. Donald Trump is telling them what he wants, and they're saying he's not going to do that because we have some good arguments to make. We've got great arguments to make, and he's not going to sacrifice these things that are arguments. He's not going to play that side of the board. We're going to shore up these sides of the board. And I've explained before that I think that Trump sees it as a win-win. I think that he's stacking up the side of the board that says if Canada wants to F around, they'll find out that we can source auto parts from wherever we want. And yeah, it'll wreck their economy, but we told them a bunch, like a bunch. And they kept sending fentanyl, and they kept sending criminals across the border. And so I've strengthened America by closing the Canadian border, and I've brought jobs back home from a foreign country that, sure, we love Canada, we love them, but they were sending fentanyl and criminals into our country. So we removed the jobs that we were so graciously allowing them to have, and we brought them back into the States. You're welcome, Ford. You're welcome, all the rest of the people. And that would be terrible for us. But he's telling us. So I think they're misunderstanding, or they're looking at the chessboard and they're saying he would never do that. This would be a red line that nobody would cross. And then when Trump crosses it and they go, they haven't planned for it. Right. And so I hope I'm wrong about that. Like, I hope I'm terribly wrong about that. But it seems to me like it would be win-win for Trump. Close the border, onshore American jobs, strengthen America. It's an easy sell. If you're in state of New York, state of Pennsylvania, like if you're in there and Ford's looking for another line because their business doubled, you're saying, oh, that's a shame, Canada. Darn, right? And I'm using Ford as an example, but other industries, any industry, right? Like anything. And are there things that he can't replace? Maybe. But can he replace a lot of it? Yeah. Can he do a lot of damage by doing that? Yeah. Would it help the United States if it closes the border from the illegal criminals and the fentanyl? Yeah. Can he sell that? Super easy. Super duper easy. So I think our leadership is screwing up because they're bad chess players and they don't understand the game that is being played in the open in front of them. And Trump's telling them, hey, stupid, I'm going to take these pieces. And they're like, he's not going to take those pieces. Senator Plett says it's been over a week since President Trump threatened to slap a 25% tariff on Canadian exports to the United States as soon as he takes office in January. The NDP Liberals promised a plan to secure the border, and it's not just Americans who are waiting to see it. They have a plan. It's been in place for weeks, right? Great. The NDP Liberals are not just the only ones waiting to see it. The provincial premiers want to see it. The Canadians who are worried about our broken border want to see it. So where is it? And how much longer do we have to wait before this plan is actually being enforced? I hate to be the bearer of bad news, man, but it's Mel Jolie and Chrystia Freeland coming up with the plan. So it's not, when they unveil it, there's going to be questions. I guarantee it. You've been doing this how long? Doug Shepley is a member of Parliament for Barrie Springwater Oro Medonte. I'm sorry, I'm getting that terribly wrong. And he says, why did it take the Donald Trump threatening to take Justin Trudeau out to and the Liberals out to the woodshed for them to finally start talking about border control? Yeah, it's super weird, right? It's not like Canadians have been quiet about this. People are upset about what's going on at the border. People are upset about our open borders. People are upset about people claiming refugee status and then being put up in hotels at taxpayer dollars. People are upset about an invasion of the country that they themselves are funding through taxpayer dollars and a government that ignores them. So why did it take a foreign government to say, you know what, I'm going to destroy your economy unless you smarten up, for anybody to actually start talking about this in a serious way? Great question. Here we go.
Minister, after 9 years, we've heard a lot in this committee lately about crime and chaos being up across Canada. We know there's issues going on. I'm hearing it from Canadians. We've heard about some horrific issues in this committee. Part of that is because of our lax enforcement and border controls. Why did it take being called by the President-elect of the United States and threatening to take you out to the woodshed to get you to finally start talk about doing something about border control?
Mr. Chair, it won't surprise you that I don't agree entirely with the premise of our colleague's question. I thought I talked about the support that our government has given to the RCMP and the CBSA and the border enforcement, a lot of it in partnership with American colleagues, but it takes nothing away from I think the obligation at all times for the government to consider what additional measures we can take to support this work that's done. Some cases it's human resources, some cases it's technology. But I think we also have to be honest. When the incoming president of the United States threatens to put a 25% tariff on goods exported to the United States, we saw a 10% tariff some years ago on a sector of the Canadian economy, steel and aluminum, and the pain point that was. So this is a different order of magnitude. So a responsible government would, I hope, take every opportunity to show, as you noted in the question, the incoming administration, how seriously we take this issue and how we're prepared to step up in partnership with them.
It's a lot of fancy words, but I don't believe them, because they're not acting like they want to work in partnership with the United States. National Post says, this is published yesterday on the 3rd of December, Trudeau warns Poilievre against amplifying, quote, erroneous narratives about Canada-US border. The Liberals are hoping to talk Trump off his threat of imposing a 25% tariff on Canadian imports over concerns about illegal immigration and fentanyl flowing into the United States. Talk is cheap, right? Like, talk is not nearly enough. National Post is reporting Prime Minister Trudeau emerged from a closed-door meeting with opposition leaders on Tuesday to warn his conservative rival against amplifying, quote, erroneous narratives that he says Americans are using about the Canadian-U.S. border. We're putting our plan into place, they said. Trudeau delivered the caution to opposition leader Poilievre in the House of Commons after they met face-to-face along with other party leaders to discuss Trudeau's meeting with the U.S. President-elect Donald Trump last Friday. What Trudeau said was, we don't negotiate against ourselves. It would be helpful in the coming weeks and months if we didn't in any way amplify the kind of messaging and language that the Trump administration is using to attack Canada. I mean, seriously? Oh my gosh. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Green Party leader Elizabeth May recounted to reporters after the meeting. So just ignore Donald Trump while we try to talk him off of this 25% thing while ignoring our borders and the drugs that he's complaining about. He's never going to do anything like that, like 25% tariffs that he's telling us that he's going to do. He's never going to do it. Sure. Polyev says Canada needs a leader with brains and backbone to defeat Trump tariffs. I think we need a leader with ears and like maybe a phone call to Donald Trump. What would you like me to do, sir? Close the border and arrest the drug dealers. You got it. We'll do that right away. Toot the sweet. Done. Right? Rather than let's talk to him a whole bunch about nothing for hours on end. Conservative leader Polyev said he felt bad for Prime Minister Trudeau's position of weakness regarding his recent visit to the U.S. President-elect Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago resort to discuss tariffs on Canadian imports. My favorite thing about that is the hotel that Trudeau stayed in. Fantastic troll. Wonderful trolling from Donald Trump. Trudeau attended Trump's estate last Friday to discuss the incoming president's pledge to impose a 25% tariff on all Canadian imports once he takes office in January. Trump cited Canada's loose border control as a reason for wanting to implement the tariffs, accusing the Trudeau government of not doing enough to prevent illegal immigrants and illicit drugs from entering the U.S. via Canada. See, it seems like True North gets it. They understand what this whole thing's about. Dear Mr. Prime Minister, can you read this article and respond? Polyev had strong words for Trudeau in the wake of his visit, calling the Prime Minister weak and claiming that he has lost control of the country. And yeah, I'll show you the lost control video in a minute, but it's interesting, the takes on the major news networks talking about all this. On one, they're saying, we've got to not talk about Donald Trump and the rhetoric he's using to describe Canada. And on the other hand, they're saying, listen, we've got to deal with the drugs and the criminals in our country that we keep letting in and, making here and importing stuff to make the drugs from China here. So we've got to stop doing all that. It's interesting. Juxtaposition, right? Which media do you believe? And I mean, True North's got its issues. It really does. But I mean, it's a bit better than a lot of the mainstream stuff. YEG Wave says Mexican President Claudia S. stated Canada has a, quote, very serious fentanyl problem. It's actually super funny, the back and forth that they get into in the article. But anyway, very serious fentanyl problem, worse than Mexico's, and is probably linked to drug decriminalization measures. She also remarked that Canada should avoid using Mexico in electoral campaigns and that Canada could only wish to have the cultural riches Mexico has. After they say, I don't want to compare countries, but it's super funny. Highlighting that her country is home to ancient civilizations that have existed for thousands of years. Have you heard of Turtle Island? Huh? All right. Madam. CTV News is reporting Mexico president says Canada has a very serious fentanyl problem. Yeah, and I mean, who would have thought in the early 2000s that the president of Mexico would be lecturing Canada on our drug issues? It's kind of funny, right? Like if you think about the positions and the attitudes in the early 2000s and then fast forward to now, right? It used to be Mexican drug cartels that were a big deal. And now it's like, oh, how's that fentanyl problem, Canada? Eh? You got a bunch of zombies in Vancouver living there. That's way worse than Mexico. At least our cartels can function, you hosers, right? Like... It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Okay. In a Monday press conference, the thing that made me laugh the most was that she says we shouldn't compare countries and then proceeds to compare countries. It's super funny. So I'm going to read it. In a Monday press conference, Mexican President Claudia S. said Mexico must be respected, especially by its trading partners. That's us. She also noted that Canada has a very serious problem with fentanyl consumption, more than Mexico, and possibly as a result of drug decriminalization measures. We're not going to fall for a provocation of which country is better, she said. Chalking some criticism from Canada up to political pandering, but everything people say before the but doesn't matter. Mexico should not be used as part of Canada's electoral campaign, she says. She also says Canada could only wish to have the cultural riches that Mexico has, saying her country has civilizations dating back thousands of years. Asked to respond, Mel Jolie said she's reaching out to Mexican officials after speaking with the U.S., including about the very important trade agreement that includes all three countries. I know there's been many conversations in Canada about how we can work together and how we can at the same time protect our interests, she said. We've had a positive relationship with Mexico and we need to work with the country. That's definitely my goal. I don't know. It's very, because on one hand, they say, no, our borders are very different than Mexican borders. Have you heard of the Mexican drug cartels? And Mexico's like, hey guys, check yourself. So it's pretty interesting. The whole thing's pretty interesting. Gov.exe is highlighting Jagmeet Singh. Jagmeet Singh blames Stephen Harper, of course he does, for today's border crisis. And then he pivots to his stump speech because they have nothing. They have absolutely nothing. They know they're terrible. They know they're causing these problems. They wanted to cause these problems, but now they're getting pushback and they're not in a position to I guess, ignore that pushback entirely, but mostly, right? So they have nothing. And that's shows in the rhetoric they're using because it doesn't resonate. People aren't, I don't think people are saying, hey, Jagmeet Singh, you're talking about things that I care about. He's not. He sounds like an idiot most of the time. Here we go.
The last Conservative government fired 1,100 border officers. That allowed illegal guns and drugs to flow freely into our country. We are all paying the price of that callous Conservative cut. I want those border officers rehired. I want thousands more recruited, and I want their mandate expanded so they can patrol the entire border. Will the Prime Minister do that?
Mr. President, Mr. Speaker, my honourable colleague is...
Mr. President? Do I call you Donald or Mr. Trump, or you can call me Mr. President? Do you like this song?
Exactly right. Conservative cuts hurt Canadians. Conservative cuts hurt our border security. Conservative cuts just hurt the Canadian economy.
So it's been 9 years of these two running things. Jagmeet Singh's had the balance of power. He didn't say a word about border security. He said, I want to have, what is all the things that he wants? Pharmacare, dental. It doesn't say anything about rehiring border patrol officers until right now. And then blames Harper's fault, Conservatives' fault. And Justin Trudeau comes in and says, yeah, it's definitely Stephen Harper's fault. That's the real problem here.
That is why it is so bewildering to see the Conservative leader continuing to stand up in cuts for dental care, cuts on housing investments, cuts for the kinds of services and benefits that Canadians need, whether it's a tax break for the next few months or school food programs.
Pivot, right? And they always try and talk about their stump speech, et cetera, et cetera. Roger Stone says, developing, the Chinese Communist Party wired millions of dollars to certain conservative influencers in the United States through a Canadian bank in Ontario. I think this is the tenant media stuff that he's talking about, although it is an interesting China connection. And if China is using Canadian banks and TD and other infrastructure in Canada, Chinese infrastructure, maybe Confucius centers in schools, maybe busing Chinese students down to New York to visit somebody and then handing dollars over in packets of envelopes. Who knows? Who knows how it's done, right? I don't know the practicalness of it. But if it's coming in through Canada, that's foreign interference, Chinese interference routed through this supposed friendly country, us, right? So again, I say our leadership is taking a view on this that is, I think, outdated. In the early 2000s, I think they'd be right to gamble that the president at the time, Bush, wouldn't do that. Even if he threatened it, wouldn't do it. But now, I mean, I don't see a reason for Trump to not follow through, honestly. Lion Advocacy says, I'm not the first person to flag this by any means, but the Chinese government's acquisition of certain portions of the Globe and Mail to promote Chinese government propaganda is now more than ever a serious concern worthy of national scrutiny. Heads up. So China Watch, this is an advertisement. So they are buying portions of the Globe and Mail. So when you don't subscribe to the Globe and Mail, they find subscribers in China who want to influence people, citizens in Canada, and they purchase exactly that, foreign influence in our newspapers. Here is, how about foreign influence in our House of Commons? Here is a Liberal MP, Chandra Arya, says, and Tom Mazzaro says, perhaps China, they have a Canadian Heritage Month. Anyway, Liberal Chandra Arya says, it's our responsibility to preserve and promote Chinese heritage and designate the entire month of February as National Chinese Heritage Month. I think maybe we found another one of the 11, right? Like if we've, how many Chinese traitors can we unmask in the House of Commons before we go to the next election? Could this be one? Here we go.
It is our collective responsibility to preserve and promote this invaluable culture and heritage, ensuring that all Canadians, today and in the future, can learn from and celebrate its significance. I call on Canada to designate February each year as National Chinese Heritage Month. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
No? How about no? How about we don't do that? That would be a terrible idea. Harrison Faulkner says, watch as an Indian-born MP in Canada tries to designate February as Chinese Heritage Month, telling Canadians that it's their collective responsibility to preserve Chinese heritage. No. I don't think so. Oh, I may have use the horn too early. I'm going to use the horn again here. Justin Trudeau is asking a bunch of children this question, and like, does this rise to child abuse, or is this? Here we go. I'm joking, by the way. Here we go.
Who likes pineapple on their pizza?
I've never tried.
Oh, I love pineapple on my pizza.
I'll leave it. All of the children look disgusted. I mean, 2 of them vomited off camera as soon as they registered what he said. You'll have to watch the video. Link is in the description to see that. But I'm just kidding. I don't think they actually did that. But I almost did. So honestly, I know people who like pineapple on the pizza. And fine, Hawaiian pizza is fine if you take the pineapple off, because then it's just ham and bacon, which is great. Pizza, right? Cheese and ham and bacon. That's wonderful. But like pineapple, no, thank you. No, thank you very much. Here is Canada Proud, and Justin Trudeau is focused on asking children politically charged messages about pineapple and pizza. Pierre Poilievre is saying Justin Trudeau has lost control of everything. Here we go.
Speaker, whether one thinks that President Trump's tariff threats are a negotiating tactic or a real plan, what we do know is what we can control. And the Prime Minister has lost control of everything. He's lost control of the borders, lost control of immigration, lost control of spending and the deficit, lost control of inflation and housing costs, lost control of his own caucus. This has put Canada in an unbearably weak position. Mr. Speaker, will the Prime Minister reverse all the damage he's done, or will he just call a carbon tax election so we can do it for him?
Amplifying these broken narratives is simply not responsible leadership.
Breaking things is not responsible, Mr. Speaker, and that's what he's been doing for 9 years. My job is not to cover that up for him. In fact, he's broken our economy. He's doubled the cost of housing, doubled the national debt, doubled trouble across our economy with higher taxes on working Canadians. He's in the process of raising taxes on investment and energy right now, while an American incoming president wants to take our jobs and our businesses. It's understandable why President Trump wants Canadian jobs to go south, but why does this Prime Minister want to help him do it?
And if that tariff happens, that will help Trump's goal of moving Canadian jobs south, onshoring American jobs. And that's a darn shame about what happened to Canada, but we told them. Harrison Faulkner says the Canadian Army, this is our grab bag of governance. Harrison Faulkner says the Canadian Army have just sent this questionnaire to soldiers asking them if they've purchased extremist group merchandise, such as Make Canada Great Again hat. This is insane. How is Making Canada Great Again extremist? So in the past 2 to 5 years, have you done any of the following? Prefer not to disclose. Have you liked an extremist group post on social media? I posted yesterday about chocolate cereal, and it's Rudolph chocolate cereal, by the way, hot chocolate flavored. It's okay. It's not quite as good as the Nesquik, and it doesn't make the milk chocolatey. I might have to cut the Rudolph cereal with some Nesquik to get the chocolate milk in there. So custom chocolate cereal is my thing. Let me know if you want to learn more in the comments. Anyway, the second one is, if you like that, you're an extremist also, by extension, and the military won't have you fraternizing with chocolate cereal eating terrorists like me. Terrorist is probably too strong. Donated to an extremist group, although they're using extremists. So extremist group cause. Is a Canada Poly membership an extremist group cause? Purchased an extremist group merchandise. For example, a Make Canada Great Again hat. What an example to use. The Make Canada Great Again hat being classified as extremist by the Canadian military should stand out to people, but I haven't seen one mainstream media outlet covering it. Like the National Post isn't talking about that, but it really should be, because if the military is saying that's extremist, like kind of publicly, what are they saying behind closed doors, right? Right Blend says the situation in Parliament is dire. At least 3 NDP MPs, Matthew Green, Leah Gazin, and Heather McPherson, were seen supporting the pro-Palestinians who took over a Parliament building today. That's yesterday. At least one Liberal MP, Talib N, was seen schmoozing with the group after they were forcibly removed. No one was criminally charged, which is total BS. So if this was truckers doing this, you'd bet they'd be criminally charged. Who told this group about the security protocol for the building so they would know how to overwhelm it? Who told them which building would have the weakest security and at what time? This is a national security emergency. Parliament should immediately suspend business and get to the bottom of who helped these people blockade Confederation Building. And so Jagmeet Singh's asked about this by Chris Dacey, and Dacey asks him, and because it's his caucus members who are participating in this, or largely his caucus members, and he doesn't know anything about it. Convenient.
Mr. Singh, are you aware of the occupation of the Parliament building down the street? Yeah, it's been a while. Are you aware that the building down the street's been occupied by pro-Palestinian protesters? What about this occupation down the street here, though? The building, the Parliament building there is literally occupied as we speak.
Yeah, I know. I'm going to a speech right now. I don't know about that.
Are you going to continue to prop up Justin Trudeau and the Liberals?
What are you, man? What are you going to do these days?
I'm trying to get accountability from government.
Yeah, that's good, man.
Yeah, man. Stop voting for Trudeau, please, though, and do what you said you do. You said you're tough. You're going to stand up to him. Canadians want you to stand up to him. If you call an election, then we can have our say. No.
These people don't work for us. You understand? They don't work for us. They don't feel like they have to answer our questions. They don't work for the citizens of this country. They work for puppets who place them in high-paying jobs that will pay them for life. And all they have to do is ignore us. And all we're supposed to do is say, shucks darn, if we can elect somebody else, they'll listen to us, certainly. Do you think so? I don't think so. I don't think so. You know what's funny? There's a whole group of like influencers. The pleb is one of them. There are people like the pleb, people who are like following the pleb and who are influencers that are in that sphere. They block me, which is weird. All of these people who block me, they all have apples in their profile picture. It's really weird. It's like a weird layer of media that block me. They don't want anything to do with me. Super interesting. And I don't know. I mean, I can gather why, because I ask uncomfortable questions and I'm not going to be influenced. Like nobody's paying for me other than my membership people. So like the people who subscribe to my show. And so that's possibly why. But it's really, really, because ideologically, most of the time I agree with them. I just don't agree with their partisanship with regards to the CPC. And I like to call them out on their divisive tactics. And so I guess that's why they block me. But anyway, regardless. Alex Zoltan says, another fascinating and hilarious production from the CBC. This one's about harassment of politicians, which is up 800% in the last 5 years, if you believe their numbers. I don't condone harassment of anyone, but I find it highly amusing that no one offered a self-reflection on why this is happening. So nobody said, maybe it's because we don't actually engage and answer questions. Like I just showed you Dacey asking Jagmeet Singh straight up, like, when are you going to do what you said you were going to do? You ripped up your support. You said you were going to allow Canadians a choice and you're not doing any of that. And he completely ignored him. There wasn't any threat or anything like that. Completely ignored him, walked away. No, I'm not going to answer your questions. See you later. And other people are much more rude, right? So I find that interesting. But these politicians, if you try to solve a problem and try to solve a problem and try to solve a problem and then get called a Nazi by your government, yeah, people or lose your job because the government mandated a shot that we now know harms people, or any of the other things that have happened, like, yeah, people are going to be upset. Here's this. It says, this video contains strong language. Sure does.
You deserve around-the-clock harassment until you either end yourself or get the fuck out of our country. You're traitors, pigs! You are a fucking I'm coming after you guys.
The other thing about this is I am skeptical that that's not a staffer that's like, hey, listen, I need some material that sounds real bad. So go call and I'm going to play it for like the news people. And, it could be a false flag. It could easily be like, I don't know who did that, right? Like, who knows if this person is in on the phone calls being made, and maybe not all of them, but maybe the ones that actually came in from the public weren't quite bad enough. So they just needed to, embellish a little bit, right? Like I wouldn't put these people past, I wouldn't put that past these people because they've lied to us before. COVID, right? Like what happened to the flu? I don't trust them. I don't believe them. And they want to use this as an excuse to censor. And there's no self-reflection that maybe we had something to do with this because we've been ignoring and abusing our constituents since at least 2020, since at least COVID, and likely before that, a lot before that, by the way. So I don't believe that this whole premise even exists independent of these people maybe manufacturing it. Sure, I think maybe there are people who call in independently and tell these people that, you know, they're traitors, et cetera, et cetera. I call them traitors on Twitter, on X or whatever it's called. I haven't phone called anybody and left a message saying that they're traitors, but I'm sure there are people who do that. But I think they manufacture these whole things for optics, and especially when, you know, CBC News is doing a documentary. Again, not saying it's all manufactured, but they're going to need to prove all of this before they start crying victim.
I think we can wait until someone is injured or killed because of this kind of anger.
The threats are vile and often violent.
What concerns me is the growing extremism in the country.
Politicians are under increasing attack.
So this is where it happened.
Yeah, he walked right up and spit on me. I was concerned that he might have had a weapon.
This is absolutely unprecedented.
Brenda Lucky. Brenda Lucky. They're getting Brenda Lucky to come out here? Like Brenda Lucky, the RCMP who brought horses against peaceful protesters and the War Measures Act, right? Like, give me a break. All of this, give me a break. I don't think so. I don't believe these people. These people are not at all being honest about what's been going on, and they're telling one side of the story to justify their bad governance, their continued bad governance, and we shouldn't. Hello everyone, thanks very much for watching. This is just a short version of a longer show. If you'd like to get the whole show, you can go over to CanadaPoly.com and sign up for a subscription. Just look in the drop-down tab for Shop and Donate and look for subscriptions, and you'll get immediate access to the full show. Love to see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Have a wonderful, wonderful